I'll start. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. My name is Sandro Tejada. I'm the Director of Major Gifts and our Family Giving Program. I'm excited to have Katherine Fainer, our Director of Admissions from Seton Hall, to join us today to kind of share how you can volunteer with the Office of Admissions and help with their strategy in recruiting prospective students that are interested in becoming pirates. I've had the pleasure of working with the Office of Admissions for the past 10 years, and I think it's been a fruitful one where we've enjoyed working with parents who've hosted events for us, like admitted student events during February to April. And we've had wonderful send-off events all across the United States with families that have hosted at their homes. We've had parents also volunteer their time and their talent at college fairs. We've had parents actually call students that have been accepted just to welcome them. There's a lot of different opportunities, and I think Katherine, we've talked, and she has some great ideas and how if you want to volunteer your time, this is a great way to do so to help our mission at Seton Hall to recruit these wonderful students that are your sons and daughters that we have now and hopefully in the future. Um, I just want to say a little bit about Katherine. Katherine is back at Seton Hall, which is great. She started her college admissions as a member of the Blue Crew here at Seton Hall. And for more than a decade, she has worked in college admissions at multiple universities. And life has come full circle in the spring of 2022 when she returned to her alma mater as the director of admissions. And we're so lucky to have her. Katherine, the floor is yours. And thank you again for joining us today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And as Sandra said, I am a Seton Hall alum, proud alum. So graduated back in 2011 and figured I would, try working at a couple other universities before I tried my hand at Seton Hall. As I'm sure you know, with many of your sons and daughters, as a college student, I wasn't necessarily the most prepared to head into the workforce. Needed a little time to spread my wings and grow, but I'm really, really excited to be back here as the director of admissions. And Seton Hall is just a wonderful place. And one thing that's been really great for me as I've worked at other colleges and universities is I've always worked for colleges that I was really believed in and was passionate about, and that always came through when I was recruiting prospective students. And there's nowhere to be more passionate about than your own alma mater. And for you as parents, you believed in our university enough to send your son or daughter here, and so you are among the best advocates that we could possibly hope to have on our team for recruiting students, because you've seen the success that Seton Hall education can bring. You've seen how your sons and daughters have thrived here. And so you can speak from that firsthand perspective. I'm going to share my slides really quick. I put a couple of slides together, nothing too crazy, but I think it's helpful. Let's see. Okay. So let me also, I just like to have, there we go. I like to have the all of you up on the screen so that I can see you too while I'm chatting. But can you see my screen, Sandro? Perfect. So, like I said, we love Seton Hall for a lot of reasons. For some students, it's the beautiful campus, the community that they feel. I think one of the things we hear the most from prospective students and families when they visit our campus is how welcoming the community is, and how anyone that they talk to, whether it's a current student or a faculty member or a member of the admission staff, that they really feel welcome and they feel like a part of the campus right away, even as a high school student. And that's something that we really try to promote and really try to share with prospective families. They also love the school spirit. I mean, what's better than going to a Seton Hall basketball game and getting involved, cheering on the Pirates or any of our other amazing athletic programs? So that school school spirit and that athletic connection, I think, really appeals to a lot of students. Some people may only be familiar with us because of athletics. And so it's a great door opener for prospective students when they may not be familiar with our great research opportunities, the stellar internships that we offer. It's a great conversation starter and great way to bring people into the fold and then let them learn more about Seton Hall. A lot of people also love that we are a faith-based community. I think we have a really great balance here of students who are super, very committed to their faith, but also students who, might not be Catholic, might not be any type of religion, but feel the welcoming spirit that our Catholic background really brings to the table. One thing that I really loved when I first came back to Seton Hall, we had our human resources orientation, and Father Colin, who's our vice president of mission and ministry, did a little welcome session during that presentation. And one of the things he said, which I really, really loved and really resonated with me, was that the doors to our chapel are open 24/7. They're open all day, every day. And that's because every single person, whether they are Catholic, whether they're there to pray, whether they just need reflection, the doors are open to them and they're going to be welcomed into the chapel at any time, anywhere. And that's kind of a great representation of the Seton Hall community as a whole, right? We are welcoming, we're bringing people into the fold. And so you and your advocacy for Seton Hall and on behalf of your son or daughter is really, really crucial to our recruitment efforts. Working in college admissions, we are technically considered like we're selling something, right? Because ultimately, it's my job to try to recruit students to come to the university. They have to pay for that university. So people would sometimes think of it in terms of sales. And so when I'm working with prospective parents or prospective students, while they know that I'm coming from a genuine place and that I want to help them, ultimately it gets to a point where the authenticity gets lost because they know it's my job to try and get them to enroll at this school. And so when a parent who's chosen to send their son or daughter to Seton Hall, who sees it, invested in it, can talk to another parent or can talk to a prospective student, you bring a level of authenticity and of trust that, not to say that myself and my staff aren't trustworthy, but another parent can really connect to you and relate to you in a way that when they look at me, it's just not going to be quite the same. Even though I have the student experience, I'm an alum, I went here, but because I'm working for the university, there's just a little bit of a disconnect from time to time. And so lending your authentic voice, your experience with your son or daughter resonates so much when you're talking to prospective parents, because as you all know, going through this process can be overwhelming. It can be daunting. And I think that having those authentic voices, whether it be current students or parents of current students, really lends some credibility and lends some emphasis to prospective parents who are worried about where they're going to send their son or daughter and where they're going to spend the next 4 years. So we really appreciate the contributions that parents make. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the types of volunteer opportunities that Sandra alluded to. But I thought it might be helpful, I'm sure you all, whether your son or daughter is a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, or a recent alum, you're probably familiar or remember kind of what the college cycle looked like, but I thought it would be helpful to kind of give you a refresher on that and then also dig a little deeper into what my staff is doing over the course of the year. So you have a sense of kind of during different times of the year, we're focused on different things, different populations, and need different types of help. So one of the great things about this is we know that your availability is going to be different at different points in the year, right? And you're not always going to be able to provide the same level of support or volunteer time, but that's okay because we need different things at different times of the year. So whatever it is that you have the most availability or flexibility, chances are we have something that we could use your help with. But I'll just kind of briefly go through what our timeline is. So right now we're kind of in the thick of application season for our students. So seniors in high school are busy applying to Seton Hall. We've already received more than, I want to say, 14,000 applications this year. So we're really, really happy with our applicant pool, and that number is going to continue to grow over the course of the year. But the application opens each year on August 1st. So that's when students can start applying for the following fall. Our first application deadline was November 15th, and we've already started releasing decisions to prospective students. So there are already students out there where seniors in high school have been offered admission to Seton Hall and are trying to decide whether or not Seton Hall is the right fit for them. So we'll continue to review applications. Again, December 15th is the next application deadline, but we also have deadlines in February and March. So there's still plenty of time if you're talking to people that you know in your community, or you know parents of other of high school students who might be, if you have younger children, please feel free to let them know that there's still time to apply to Seton Hall. We definitely want to encourage that. And one thing that I don't have on here, but just, by word of mouth, you can always share with prospective students a fee waiver code, an application fee waiver code. And if you want to write this down, it's X as in X-ray, F as in Frank, and W as in W is a pretty easy one, but XFW. And if you share that with them, that will waive their application fee. So that's a really simple thing that you can do as a parent of a current student. Just share that with the other parents, because that's sometimes, I'm sure you remember from going through the application process that those application fees definitely add up. And so just as a, gesture of goodwill, you can share that application fee waiver code with them and encourage them to have their prospective student apply. Yeah, Daniel?
Yes, Catherine, can you repeat that?
Yep.
Application waiver?
I will actually just drop it in the chat. I think that'll be.
Okay.
So I just dropped it in the chat, but it's XFW. And so when they go to apply either on the common application or on our Seton Hall application, when they get to the final portion where they're going to submit, it'll ask if they have a fee waiver code, and they can just type that code in and it'll waive their application fee. So ultimately, we'll be rolling out decisions over the course of the school year, but by May 1st is when we want students to let us know whether or not they're going to enroll at Seton Hall. It's May 1st is kind of the national enrollment deadline. Things have gotten a little bit more fluid in the past couple of years, just as a result of the pandemic and students needing a little bit more time. But we do try to encourage students to deposit as close to May 1st as possible, just because that starts to trigger other things like applying for housing and coming for summer orientation. So that's kind of the general timeline, the student-facing timeline. Now, just to get a little bit more into the weeds, just to kind of peel back the curtain for you, in admissions, we have what we consider 4 distinct seasons for our job. So over the course of the year, we have a cycle that really can be broken up into these 4 different areas. But what you can see at the bottom of the screen here is that those seasons don't really have a formal end date. They kind of bleed into one another. So we have a really big push for part of one season that'll start to peter out. And at the same time that that's petering out, we'll start moving into the next season. So in the fall, pretty much from August through December, so we're right at the tail end of season 1, that's what we consider our fall travel and recruitment season. And during this time, our admissions counselors and assistant directors are traveling across the country to visit high schools and recruit prospective students with the hope of getting them to visit campus for an open house and to apply for admission. So we're really working with high school seniors at that point, some juniors, but primarily seniors. And our admissions counselors will visit more than 100 different high schools over the course of that time period. So right now we have about 15 recruiters that are traveling across the country. 4 of them are based regionally. So we have 2 in California, 1 based in Florida, and 1 based in the Washington, D.C. area. But we also have another 10 or so recruiters that are based on campus here in South Orange that travel the rest of the country. So they go out to places like Texas, Minnesota, up, of course, the Eastern Seaboard. So we're traveling all across the country. But one thing that we always have are what we call conflicts, or fairs that we're not able to cover just by the nature of the limitations of the size of our staff, or maybe there's a lot of college fairs happening one night and we can't attend all of them. So I'll talk about college fairs in just a little bit, but that's something that we could always use support on for parents who are comfortable talking about Seton Hall. If there's a college fair in your area, we might want you to attend that college fair on our behalf to talk about Seton Hall. But the fall is really, we're trying to drum up applications, trying to recruit students. At the end of that travel season, we move into application processing and admitted student engagement. So that's the season that we're right in the thick of right now. So we're reading applications, we're reaching out to our admitted students, we're reaching out to students who have applied but haven't maybe submitted all of their documentation. So we're really trying to make sure that we review those applications as quickly as possible so that we can get students admission decisions. As that season wraps up, we head into what we consider yield season. And that basically means of the students who applied for admission to Seton Hall, we want to try to get as many of those students as possible to enroll at Seton Hall, right? So while we receive probably anywhere between 24 and 26,000 applications each year, our freshman incoming class is usually around 1,500 students. Now, that doesn't mean we only admit 1,500 students. We admit quite a few more students to try and get 1,500 students to enroll. But the spring is when we're really trying to get those students to visit campus again, get them to connect with our admissions counselors, and truly decide whether or not Seton Hall is a good fit for them. At the same time, we're also starting to recruit for the following class. So then we're starting to work with those juniors in high school who might be going to college fairs in the spring, are working with their guidance counselors to create their college list. They're trying to decide which schools they're going to visit over the summer. So in the spring semester, really February to May, we're both trying to get the seniors who have been admitted to Seton Hall to decide, yes, I'm going to come to Seton Hall in the fall and enroll. And we're traveling across the country, recruiting the next class, trying to get the juniors excited about Seton Hall so that they'll come visit campus over the summer and hopefully apply the following August. So Season 3 is a busy one. We're really juggling a lot of things where we have on-campus events that we host between open houses and our admitted student event, Pirate Preview. So there's a lot going on in the spring. And then the summertime, pretty much after that May 1st deadline through August, is where we kind of reset, refocus. We look at how we did this particular year, look at what's going on next year, but we also try to make sure that the students that we spent all that time recruiting and decided to enroll actually show up in the fall as students at Seton Hall. And that's another opportunity to engage with parents because, as Sandra was mentioning before, that's when we'll do things like summer send-offs. And I'll talk more about the summer send-offs as well. As we wrap up season 4, we're then starting to plan our fall travel, deciding which high schools we're going to visit that fall so that we can jump right back into season 1. So I know that's a lot of information to take in, but I think it's kind of helpful to see that we're constantly working with different populations of students, and at different points in the year, we need different levels of support from parents and engagement in different ways. Any questions about this before I move into more specifics about those different ways that you guys can help us? And I know it's a little in the weeds, but I think it's helpful to have a sense.
Hi, just a
Hi.
quick question. What is anti-melt?
So one thing that happens, and again, like I said, this is a little in the weeds, but just to give you a little bit of understanding, one thing that's happened, it happens a lot more now than it used to, but students may say by May 1st, they're like, you know what, I'm going to come to Seton Hall. this is my choice, and they put their deposit down. And then maybe they come to orientation and they decide they don't like it, or maybe they have cold feet. They decide that being far away from home feels like too much for them. And then they say, you know what, I'm actually going to go to a different school closer to home. When that student decides to withdraw their deposit, that's what we call melt, because, you know, we have a number of students that deposit by May 1st, but over the summer, some of those students, and it helps that, you know, melt is a fun metaphor for, you know, the heat that we get in the summer, but some of those deposits that we have on May 1st don't actually end up enrolling and coming to Seton Hall in the fall. So those anti-melt activities, like the summer send-offs, like summer orientation, that's ways for us to keep students engaged over the summer so that they don't have that change of heart and decide to go somewhere else. One thing that's also happening a little bit more lately is that you're only supposed to deposit at one school because you're committing to go to that school. You can only attend one college, right? Unless you transfer. But some students, usually more students with more means, will deposit at multiple colleges to hold their place and then decide over the summer which school they actually want to attend. So that's another example of summer melt. If a student deposits at multiple places and then ultimately withdraws from Seton Hall, that's what that would mean. That makes sense?
It does. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're trying to avoid that, right? We want to make sure that the students who decide that Seton Hall is right for them actually commit and stay engaged. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get involved and help us out in recruiting students and having them not melt. And there's kind of different levels of effort that are required for this, right? So I kind of tiered this in a way of the lowest level of effort to the highest level of effort, just to give you a sense that it's not all or nothing with helping out in different ways. So we offer a lot of virtual events. And in fact, we hold monthly virtual events starting right around this time of year that are specifically geared towards the parents of admitted students. And we'll do them on different topics. So one week it might be on financial aid, week it might be on, life on campus, but we gear those towards parents because sometimes if it's an event with students and parents, the parents don't want to ask certain questions because they don't want to embarrass their son or daughter, or they just, the son or daughter's like, you can't ask any questions at all. And so we try to gear those events towards parents so that they know that it's kind of an open forum and that it's specifically meant to help them understand the process and really get what's going on. So we have opportunities that if you're interested in joining us for one of those virtual events, we can have you sign up for that and really just give the parent perspective. You wouldn't be asked to lead the discussion, but it would be an opportunity to share your experience, your son or daughter's experience, and answer questions that parents might have from the perspective of a Seton Hall parent. You can also volunteer to reach out to prospective students or their parents. So for example, you could draft an email about your son or daughter's experience or your experience and send it to me or send it to Sandro. And we have a system where we can, I'm sure you remember getting plenty of emails from Seton Hall when your son or daughter was applying or going through the application process, but we could draft an email that's specifically from you and send that maybe out to parents of students in your state or parents of students in your town even. We can get very specific and very granular to target these messages, but you wouldn't have to send those out on your own. We could send those out on your behalf. You could also write handwritten notes to families in your area, and we could supply you with the note cards. We'll send them out on our own, but you could send a message to parents from you to give them a sense that there are other people like them out there who have gone through this process and are there to kind of support them and know that their children are going to have support when they choose Seton Hall. Sandro also mentioned making phone calls. We could provide you with a list of parents in your area or parents of students in the same major as your son or daughter, and you could make calls to those families to just kind of share your experience and see what questions they have. Now, another level that you could do is attending a college fair. So as I mentioned before, college fairs are typically in the fall and in the spring. And what we would do, we could come up with a system for if you're on board for volunteering for college fairs, as we have conflicts in your area, we can send you a message and say, hey, this college fair is is happening. We don't have anyone to cover it. Are you able to do it? If you can, amazing. That'll be great. We'll provide you with admissions brochures and whatever you need for your table. And for those of you who are interested in attending college fairs, I can also set up a separate training where I can give you the ins and outs of how to set up your table, what to expect, the types of questions. And one expectation that we have for parents when they go to a college fair is we know that you're not going to be able to answer every single question that comes in. We know that you're not going to know the ins and outs of every major. We have brochures that give a lot of that detail. We'll give you the contact information to share so that they can get directly in touch with admissions. We really just want you to speak to your experience as a parent, be very upfront that you're the parent of a current student so that you can answer those types of questions and really just be an advocate on behalf of Seton Hall and encourage people to look a little bit closer or to learn more about the school. So again, that's a great way for you to support us. And the nice thing is, if it's in your local area, it's usually a 2-hour program, 3-hour tops, but typically between an hour and a half to 2 hours is a typical college fair. They're usually in the evenings after work. So it's a really easy thing to do. And it's a great way, especially at your son or daughter's high school or different things like that, you can always represent us and we really appreciate that help. And then kind of, I would say the heaviest lift is hosting send-offs or other events for admitted students or deposited students. So summer send-offs take place during the summer. Typically, families host them at their house, and families typically provide light refreshment. And you'll work with Sandro and with our office to coordinate those events. We would handle all of the invitations and the registration. You would just let us know whatever details we needed to know. In the past, these events have been very informal, just an opportunity for the students in your area to get to know each other. Usually your son or daughter would be present at that event if possible so that they can give the current student perspective. If they have friends that they want to invite, they can do that. We usually send a representative from the admission staff to be there for that event just so that you have someone, if there are specific questions, that we can answer those for you. But we'd also love to do other potential events with you, not just because over the summer that's helping with that melt that we talked about, but we'd love to also partner with you for events this spring potentially to try to help yield students or get students to decide that Seton Hall is the right school for them. So those admitted student population. The nice thing with send-offs is we can limit the size. We have a lot of functionality within our system to say, okay, the max number of guests is 20 people. We're not asking you to host, all 1,500 admitted students. It would definitely be more intimate events, but it's just a great way to have kind of a nice personalized experience with prospective students and just inviting them in and making them feel welcome. So again, we can be creative about the types of events that we host. It doesn't necessarily have to just be send-offs, but these are great ways to engage with prospective students and to really show what being a Seton Hall parent is all about and the experience that students will have at Seton Hall. So I know we're running up on time and I don't want to keep you too long, and if anyone has questions, but like I said before, we know that your availability may change. We know that you're not always going to be able to host a send-off. Maybe one year you can, but maybe the next year you can only do handwritten notes or make phone calls. Any kind of support that you can lend, we will take. It takes the entire university community to recruit a successful class. And the things that you do and the way that you can share on behalf of Seton Hall and of the admissions office is really critical. And we really, really appreciate everything you do. So I put together a brief interest form. I don't know if Sandro already has one. Oh, he does. Perfect. Did you drop
Catherine,
that?
you could I mean, this is one that we've had, but I think if you have one that's more updated, feel free to share it. Either
Yeah.
or. Yeah, it's fine.
Let me just stop sharing my screen really quick. Yeah, so like I said, I'll pop that into the chat. And it's really just you know, a survey, just trying to get a sense of what you're interested in helping with. It's no commitment to anything. We definitely just want to get a sense of, what you would be comfortable doing, because anything and everything is helpful. There's definitely also an other field in there. So if you have ideas or suggestions, things that you participated in with your son or daughter or at other colleges that you thought was really great, we're happy to take your suggestions, but we just want to, any way that you want to help, we're here to accept that. And, we look forward to working together.
If anyone has any specific questions about what you've learned today from Katherine, feel free to raise your hand or just unmute yourself. But seriously, I've had the pleasure of working with admissions, and parents have played an integral role in helping us recruit students and also recruit prospective families. I think it's right. This decision is a family decision, and so to have parents of current students share, the great joy of their students' experience as a pirate, goes a long way. I've seen it. I've heard it. I've attended countless admitted student events hosted by parents and their students. It really makes a difference through this process, as Katherine has shared. There are those points of time where, having a testimonial from a current student like your son or daughter, and really sharing about all the things that they're learning in class, the internships that they've had, the friends that they've met, the clubs that they're involved in. It really gives a prospective student and their families an inside look about what it means to be a pirate. So it makes a difference. So please, if you are interested, feel free to fill out the form that Katherine provided. And we look forward to connecting with you all and helping us, again, to help recruit our next pirates. And Katherine, again, thank you for providing this wonderful presentation. I know there were a lot of other parents that were interested, and so we'll share this this information with them as well, and help you and your amazing team recruit more students. I did have a specific question, Katherine. You mentioned there you have 14,000 applications that you've received so far. Do you read every application with the limited number of staff that you have, I'd imagine? How's that?
Yeah, it's we definitely have it's a lot of applications to review, and we have some systems that help, whittle down the applications that are, clearly not admissible, ones that are like rock star students, but we do review quite a few of those applications. So it's a lot of work, but and that's another reason why we need help from anyone who's willing to do it, because we do have a limited staff, and so all the help that we can get is really appreciated. But I did see one question in the chat about whether or not we tap alumni to do similar volunteering, and absolutely. One thing that we utilize alumni for a lot is either on-campus events or virtual events. We try to connect prospective students with alumni. So if there are, and we have a whole alumni relations team that works with alums, but any alumni who are willing and able to help will absolutely take their support as well. I did also drop in the chat a link to our admission staff directory. So all of our admissions counselors are assigned to a geographic area. So we do it by the area where students live. And so if you're curious who the admission counselor is for the area where you live, and if you want to reach out to them directly, even, certainly work through Sandra, work through me. But if you, want to help out at a college fair, or if you want to help out at, a coffee shop meeting or something like that, you can always email the admissions counselor for your area directly and just say, hey, I'm a Seton Hall parent. I want to help out. I live in, Connecticut. I live in New Jersey, in this area. Happy to help anytime. It's always helpful for us if we know kind of where you are and, that you're willing to help. or if you're just curious and want to see, you know, how we're splitting up the country and who's traveling where, that webpage has all that information, and it has my contact information as well. So feel free to reach out to me directly if you have any questions or wanted to follow up on anything.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you all for joining this wonderful info session on volunteering with the Office of Admissions. Again, if you are interested, I'll follow up with you as well. But this is an exciting time, especially during, I guess we're in which session? Oh, we're in the yield session, right? Or beginning
We're in the application review
application,
season, so
right.
yep.
So yeah, this is an exciting time to be a part of this, and so we would love your help and your assistance and your time and your talent. So again, thank you. This is the first step, joining this call and learning more about how you can volunteer. And again, Catherine, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your amazing team, what they do as well. They do a great job. If you haven't been to, and you probably have been to an open house with your students, you can see the team is amazing. It's they work hard and they can use the help. So again, think about it. We hope you do volunteer your time. Well, have a great evening. I know there's a basketball game tonight, so if you're tuning in, we could use the win. So go Pirates, and everyone have a great evening. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you all.
you.
Take care.
Have a good night.